AITA for missing my daughter's birth? For a little background information, I, 28M, have a beautiful wife, 27F. We've been trying for a baby for about 3 years now and have known each other since we were in high school. When my wife found out she was pregnant, we were thrilled and have been getting prepared for months. Now, she's 9 months pregnant. My dad is a real $1 hole. But he keeps me employed. He owns a pretty nice Italian restaurant that has been run by my family for decades. I've worked there since I was about 15 and I am now head chef. The problem is he treats his employees pretty bad, including me. And if you even miss one shift, you get demoted or even worse, fired. I was in the middle of a very hectic shift on the busiest day of the week when my mill called saying my wife went into labor and I needed to get to the hospital right away. When I asked my dad if I could go, he said, "You can go if you're okay with being unemployed," which I couldn't risk because after the baby was born my wife would be off work for quite a while to be a stay-at-home mom. The reason my dad was so mad at the idea of me leaving was because he was understaffed and really needed my help. When I tried calling my mill, she wouldn't pick up, so I just kept working, and that I thought could explain myself later. Later, when it was time to go home, I drove to the hospital, but Mill and her sisters refused to let me in the room and called me names like a bad father and a bad husband. When it was finally time to leave the hospital, my wife and newborn baby went home with Mill, and they haven't spoken to me in days, even when I try and apologize and explain myself. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I need to know. AITA? TLD or my dad owns a popular business and needs staff. I am head chef, so I need to work all the time. My wife went into labor and I missed the birth because of my dad. So when are you going to start looking for a new job? You need to look for a new job. This won't stop as your baby grows up. When you have parent-teacher conferences, games to watch, dances to chauffeur, your dad will be the centerpiece if every excuse why you can't go, and soon your wife and kids will not accept that excuse. She didn't accept it now. Do your new family and you the biggest favor you could ever do and get a new job. I understand the pressure of parents and manipulation. But frankly, your dad is the off for knowing your situation and putting your family's future at risk for his business. YTA. You had cards in your hand. Son, you forgot to play them. You should have taken your knives and said, "Good luck with never seeing your grandchild." Then, and disappeared into the night. You had all the aces. Him facing his wife for saying that. There being the grandparents. You knowing all the recipes and how to follow them. You just didn't play them because you were afraid. Getting one more saltimbocca out is not worth missing your child's birth for. You did wrong. If you are a head chef at a popular restaurant, there is nothing stopping you from getting a job at another restaurant. The answer to "you can't leave" is, if you ever expect to see your grandchild, I suggest you modify your tone and say "good luck to me." YTA. Restaurants everywhere are looking for staff. You'd find a new job in a kitchen in a minute. You should have grown a pair and left to see your child born. YTA. Grow a backbone. You left your wife to go through one of the hardest things without you because you can't set boundaries, and you didn't even have the decency to let her know you weren't coming. Obviously your dad is the biggest a-hole, but you're a close second for allowing this and for basically abandoning your wife with no explanation. I'm going to offer some advice. Don't try to explain yourself. In this case, that will seem like you trying to shift responsibility of this off onto your dad being an asshole. And you know what? He sounds it. But you actively chose not to be there for her when she went into labor. And explaining your reasons again and again will never give her the support of her husband that she expected when she went into labor the first time. Women die in childbirth. Sometimes they have to have surgery. It's scary and painful and hard, and that was one of the moments in life you were meant to be there for her. She had to do it without you, and you can never undo that. I'm saying YTA for that reason. Your dad may be an asshole, but you agreed to do what he wanted. YTA, you had 9 months, and even years, since you've been planning to have a child for a long time, even before your wife became pregnant, to make contingency plans and work out with your dad how to keep the restaurant staffed during your daughter's birth. You apparently failed to take even cursory steps to plan for time off around the time of the birth. That's a serious failing as a parent. What was your plan? Were you going to leave your recovering wife home with a newborn and never take any time off to help her and to bond with your child? YTA, and so is your father. What kind of awe makes his own son miss the birth of his child? Genuine question. What do you plan to do if there is ever an emergency with your child and no one else is available? Or even if others are available? What if your daughter needed you, her father, to comfort, protect and nurture her? Consider getting a new job. Your father is an asshole and you've picked him over your family, and every time you give in to his threats, he gets stronger and has more power against you. Info. In the 9 months you've been preparing for this baby, why wasn't finding a new job a priority preparation? Because you have to realize that this kind of setup isn't sustainable in the long run if you want to have a family. My guess is that for your wife it wasn't just that you missed the birth, but that in doing so you gave her a picture of what her life as mother would be like with you. She and your child will never be a priority. Daddy will snap his fingers and that will be it. How many big moments will you miss? How much of the everyday grind of childcare will you miss? This job is a choice. You didn't miss the birth of your child and fail to be the support your wife needed during a typically physically traumatic life and death event because you had to. You could have found a new job long ago. So why haven't you? What about working for your abusive father is so important to you as to risk your new family? YTA. Here's a newsflash. Lots of restaurants need staff. You should have gotten out from under your father's thumb a long time ago, before it affected your wife and child. I'd say more, but I don't want to hold you up because you have a lot of groveling to do. A lot. YTA, if your dad is truly understaffed, how could he fire his head chef? You're almost certain to be tough for missing the birth of your child. I had 4 children and would have been devastated for their father to miss any of their births. You also never know if there will be a crisis, small or large, at which point your partner needs you even more. I had one small crisis while pregnant. My partner faithfully attended all the prenatals for all the kids, but he missed that one. For good reason. I stood by a busy street, enormously pregnant, and cried. Your father is part of this picture. But just because he's an asshole, doesn't mean you need to be one too. Get out of that job. Info. Have you tried looking for other jobs? Wow. I completely understand being programmed into the habit of just obeying a tyrannical parent, especially as you've worked for him for your entire life. Really. But WTH. He had months and months to figure out how to staff the restaurant in your absence, and instead he just forbid you to go to your wife's side. That's diabolical. YTA. But softly. Because I understand this dynamic. I lived it for a very long time until my father died, and he's still in my head too much. You need to apologize to your wife. Quit your job. Find another. A good head chef should be in high demand in a lot of better places. And carve out a life independent of your family's. especially yours. YTA for not finding other work long before now. You've made it clear to your wife that you won't be around for important events. What are you going to do when it's your child's birthday? School play? Graduation? If you are willing to miss the birth, when your wife is vulnerable and in pain, what aren't you willing to miss? If I were your wife, this would be the end of my rope. New job or I'd be leaving. Accept your wife, especially your dad. YTA. Your dad is the biggest asshole here. Obviously. Employees miss one shift and they're fired? He knows his own grandchild is about to be born and threatens you. His son, the child's dad, with losing his job? Gee, wonder why he's experiencing being understaffed?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.